say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
We about to go up like.
What up, DJs? We got some fire content for you tonight. But before we get to our special guest, make sure if you guys haven't done so already, you are smashing that like button. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Make sure you guys are subscribed first, and then make sure you hit that notification bell. Hop down to the description. You guys will find our Telegram link. Make sure you guys join up that Telegram, and make sure you guys are following all the DJ Roundtable official social medias as well as all the panelists. So with that being said, Mr. Will Stevenson, man, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy. What's going on? And let's get this show on the road, dude.
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. We are here to interview Mr. Sam, one half of the BROTHERS64 cryptocurrency little company business thing. But before we get into that point, we're going to have some nice little introductions of ourselves. So I'm Will Stevenson. I'm just a random dude who roams around the country, and I look for people to interview and find and stuff. And I'm part of this DGen Roundtable. Mr. J, what's going on with you, bud? Jay, you are muted.
Man, I gotta really get used to these fucking hotkeys, bro. It make the life so much easier, but it's been crazy out here in Arizona. We're getting a delayed monsoon season, right? So the rainy season was a little bit should have been a bit earlier during the summertime, which is when we usually get it, and we didn't. So now it's kind of been in the backlog. So it's been raining here for like the past few days, which is making it very difficult for me to work, right? Because I do all of my work outside, and when it rains, I basically stare out the window looking at the projects that need to be finished. And I'm like, God damn it, man! I can't do nothing right now. So I have to like strategically enter in and out of my warehouse, so I can work on projects that needs to be finished. But other than that, man, same shit, different day. Working on the business, accumulating that dry powder, trying to grab as much capital as I possibly can to throw at this market. Because let me be clear, the price pumped. But if you notice, Bitcoin is really the only one that's moving. Usually, when Bitcoin pumps with Ethereum keeps pace with it. But the pump on Ethereum has been fairly muted. So that tells me that everybody is funneling their capital into Bitcoin, but nowhere else, right? And as I mentioned in the chat the other day, whenever something like this happens, you have to ask yourself: is this a pump that I need to pay attention to, or is this a so what pump? And it seems like so far that is so what pump, because we're not able to maintain the momentum out of those moving averages and indicators that we need to regain and hold for it to possibly be a pump that we can actually pay attention to and be excited about. So other than that, man, nothing else really going on with me, man.
Nothing going on.
Josh, what's going on with you, buddy?
Oh, man, let me tell you. So we got the start of football season, right? So getting focused on that. We got NASCAR playoffs, which, I mean, I'm probably the biggest NASCAR fan any of you guys will ever meet. So NASCAR playoffs, plus we got the NFL going on right now, my favorite time of year. So my weekends are pretty much packed up, plus with my regular work, and now with the channel and everything that we got going on with the channel and all that good stuff. Just staying busy, man. Definitely staying busy. Let me get this reorganized here. Yeah, cool. All right. Just staying busy, dude. Whether it's trying to get special guests on, or whether it's prepping for the Sunday show, and all the little small stuff that we do in between. So life is busy, but definitely life is good. It's great to see the channel growth that we've had so far. I'm excited about it. And let me tell you what I'm excited about. I'm excited about this conversation tonight, because when me and Will did the pre-call with Sam, Sam is that dude that you're like, bro, I just want to grab a beer with this guy and I just want to cut it up and chat with this dude. You know what I'm saying? And given his story, I mean, everybody's going to hear about it tonight. I'm not going to give out any spoilers. I'm going to let him introduce himself here in a minute. But, dude, I'm excited about this conversation. So, Will, I'm going to turn it back over to you and get that drum roll going so we can introduce Sam here to the crowd.
Mr. Sam, you are the man of the hour. Tell us, sir, where are you from? What do you do? And what is it that got you into this space?
All right. Hey, fellas, am I coming in all right?
Hell yeah, good sound.
All right. Excellent. Well, yeah, so my name is Sam. I'm up here in the in Canada, the Great White North, just hanging out in the middle of it. And me and my family, we got into crypto a bunch of years ago, probably about right around 2014. We started getting into it, and as I'm sure you boys are super aware, like once you're in, once you catch the bug, it's pretty hard to get rid of it. At least that's been my experience. Yeah, so we just we've been, for the last little while, we've just been making these videos. We've been making comedy videos associated with crypto, just to try to give value to watchers, and just to try to get more normies interested in crypto in general, because I feel like comedy is a pretty good way to break the ice.
Excellent. And the name of your channel, if for those who don't know, is...
It's BROTHERS64. Actually, if you head to brothers64.com, you can find all of the links. But usually on most social media sites, it's Brothers64 Media, or at Brothers64 Media.
Very nice.
Sam,
very nice.
I'm curious.
Go ahead, Jay.
So so Sam tells me that him and his family gets into crypto at 2014. Number one, how does the whole family like latch on to crypto? Because usually it's just like you're the oddball of the family that gets pulled into the space, right? Because it's so niche. So number one, that's interesting. Like how did you and your family manage to get all pulled in? Like what was so interesting about it? You guys managed to latch onto it. And then the next part is, out of all things that you could have done, why make comedy videos about crypto, bro? Because this was like way in 2014 when it's even more unknown. Like, well, it's still like it's relatively unknown now, right? Because only a small part of retail is involved in it, and the big money is just now coming into it. So in 2014, barely anybody was talking about it. So can you give us a little bit of a background on how those things happen, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally, my brother just sort of came to us in 2014, and he told me all about Bitcoin. And at the time, like so many people, I was just not interested at all. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I thought it was just, I don't know. I kind of thought it was, I thought it was a little above my head, but really it was persistence. And then after we kind of had that 2017 run up, and you saw some of the X's and you saw some of the gains, at that point, it was impossible to ignore. So like, it was kind of just a slippery slope where our family just kind of kept getting more and more into it. And then as far as the comedy thing goes, I just kind of, at a certain point, I just stood back and we kind of looked at the landscape of crypto YouTube, and we kind of thought, there's not too many people doing the comedy thing. So we thought it'd be a good way to sort of, well, A, to sort of stick out, and B, just to sort of make it less serious for those who don't want to talk serious finance. Like, I know everyone that's into crypto is all about that, but if you're not, like, how do you sort of bridge that gap, So that was sort of the thought process behind it.
That's a fantastic start. What was it about Nintendo 64 that originally got you guys into choosing that as the focal point of your brand that you guys are building?
Yeah, no, really, that was just, we figured most people our age would get all the references, and we were sort of like, well, I don't know, what could we do that would make people laugh just hearing a sound or hearing something really quick? And we figured a lot of people would pick up on it, so we thought it was a decent angle. And obviously, like when we were younger, my brother and I, we gamed like crazy, which I think, I don't know, it's pretty common in our generation on the old 64. So that was kind of where that all came from.
Hey, how close are you and your brother? Are you guys like best friends? Did you guys go through that brother stage where you guys fought like devils when you were younger and all that stuff? Like, how's your relationship with him to be able to do this stuff together? Because that's awesome. I wish my little brother was involved in something like this, because I would love to be able to get my little brother involved.
Well, hey, he's really, he is definitely my best friend. for sure, we're unbelievably close, but we definitely went through phases like any other group of brothers where, like, you know, there's a couple years where we hardly talked and we were really young. I think that's kind of when we got most of our scraps, at least physically, out of the way. So, I mean, but it's coming up on a decade now. Like, really, I can't think of an argument we've really had in the last decade. So it's been good. We kind of got it all out of our system, I guess.
What's y'all's age difference? I'm just curious.
So he's 3 years older than me.
Oh, snap. So you're the younger brother in the situation. Excellent.
You know it, boys.
He's the
Very
Sam
nice.
is the Tristan to Big Brother's Andrew.
Perhaps.
Well-
So you had mentioned. Go ahead.
Oh, no, after you.
I was just gonna say. I was gonna direct the conversation into another little spiel. You had mentioned that you got in 2014. So you're essentially what I would consider to be like a crypto grandpa, or something along those lines. And you guys rode that first wave up in 2017. Now we've had a discussion before about your history in crypto. Can you describe to me what your history was in the investing, putting money in and pulling money out, and realizing just how crazy this world is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, okay, so when that first sort of run up happened, I'll be honest with you boys, like, I knew so little about Bitcoin and crypto, and I was kind of just going on my brother's recommendations. And I'm not even gonna lie, when the peak happened in 2017, like, I didn't even know it was possible for the price of Bitcoin to go down. I know that sounds so stupid, but I will totally outright admit it. I knew that little about crypto at the time. So it was kind of the best way. It was kind of the best way to learn, where it was like, okay, like, you really got to be on it. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, before that time, like, before the first real, I guess it would have been whenever that bear market happened. So probably 2018-ish. I don't know when but yeah. So let's say 2018, whenever the price went down, when it rose up to just about 20,000 and then crash rate back down. That was kind of like the best. That was the best on the fly education a guy could have had. Cause, like, as soon as that happened, I realized, yeah, okay, I got to pay a little bit more attention. I can't just set it and forget it for the next 80. Well, to a degree, there's definitely something to be said about setting and forgetting it for 80 years. But I don't know. It was definitely like I had to readjust my time horizons, readjust when to take profits, when to be looking to take profits. I just had to. It was a catalyst that made me pay way more attention to the market in general. Like, before that time, I'd glance at it like once a month type of thing. And then once the real dip happened, I was like, okay, I got to learn about this stuff. I got to figure out what this is, how it works, the whole 9 yards, you know? So,
Man, what a trial by fire. Like, to ride the describe. Well, I'm sure I can guess that you felt quite awful, but, like, describe the sequence of events. Like, if you can put yourself back into, what was that, fucking 9 years ago shoes, like, you're seeing this thing that you have this sort of kind of tangible knowledge in, and you're watching it go up, and, like, the hopes are skyrocketing, and then that first plunge happens. How were you feeling at the time?
oh boy. Well, to be honest with you boys, fairly similar to how I assume most people watching and that have gotten in the last couple of months feel right about now, where you just feel like the rug got pulled out from you real quick. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That was it. You know, it was, I was feeling, actually, I'll be honest. I was feeling really stupid is actually the best way I can describe it, especially because, like, I had such an opportunity to take such massive gains at the time, and I was so uneducated in the space actually at the time that, like, I wasn't even really sure how to get my Bitcoin off my cold storage wallet and into an exchange. Like, it was that bad, boys. Like, I was just sort of going up. Yeah, it was really bad, you know, but it was, so it was definitely like it was a great learning experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was actually totally worth the money, totally worth whatever was lost in that dip. It was totally worth it.
So, you like, if you had to, all right, Josh, you first, and then Jay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious. Could you talk a little bit about how, like, obviously your investment strategy and the things that you paid attention to, how it morphed from that 2017 bull market, and then, you know, compared to the last one that we had in 2021? Like, what, I guess, you know, what did you learn, and, like, what was the biggest thing that you shifted, and what metrics did you then start paying attention to, or what sort of rules or policies did you put in place in 2021 that were different that you learned from 2017?
Honestly, there's probably so many changes that it'd be crazy to just start going through it all. But what I actually did, to be totally real with you boys, is I just dedicated myself to learning as much as I could about it. So I started following absolutely everybody I could. I went and took DCC and Charlie's course. I took a bunch of them actually, but I started taking them in between those 2 times. And like, that was a real eye opener to just, well, there's so many things, as you guys probably know, but it was a real eye opener just in terms of knowing when, just to learn the game a little bit more and to learn when to, oh geez, what has changed my investment strategy? Okay. I would say I now pay a lot more attention to sentiment, and I pay less attention to people I like on the internet telling me to do things. I know it sounds strange that listening, taking their course with 2 guys on the internet actually makes you listen to less guys on the internet, but that's a testament to their teaching style and just how good what they've built is.
Yeah, that's an excellent system. That's actually how we brought our brand together for the DGen Roundtable. Shout out to Miguel and Charlie from the Cultivate Crypto and the Crypto Mindset and Dollar Cost Crypto and all that. They put a good product together. So you, sorry, actually, Jay, you had a question now.
Yeah, quick comment. See, here's the thing. When Sam mentioned that, he alluded to the fact that some people might think it's weird that you learn from 2 people in the internet, but then once you go out and do your own thing, you stop, because he said, right, he stopped listening so much to the guys on the internet, right? But that's actually not too surprising for me, right? One of the things that Charlie and Miguel always harp on us, or whenever they're teaching their course, or even just when they're on the internet doing their streams on YouTube, right? They always say that you never trust, but you always have to verify. And so once you kind of absorb that paradigm of thinking, it makes you a lot more skeptical of people that do this stuff on the internet, right? At the very least, you're a lot less willing to take what they say at face value, and you go out and do your independent study a lot more. And it seems like that's probably what happened with Sam. And so all of these people that he was watching before, right, on YouTube, right? A lot of those people, after he took a few courses, he did a lot of this learning, a lot of those people probably started sounding full of shit to him, which is probably why he gravitated away from most of these online influencers that kind of just shill an exchange or a product that's full of nonsense, and they rug you. So that was actually, I just wanted to comment on that real quick, because that's actually not too surprising. What I wanted to ask Sam is that a lot of folks, once they experience a bear market like that, where they didn't get to take any profits whatsoever, a large contingent of people just quit. But that's not what happened to you. In fact, you dove into deeper into the education aspect, right? So you could learn more about it. When the bull market happened to you and you didn't get to take profits, and the bear just kind of rugged all of those gains from underneath you, what made you decide when you came up to that fork in the road to stay in the space as opposed to just calling it quits and leaving? Because most people would have just thrown in the towel.
Yeah, I'd say really the big thing was first thing I'll say is there's not a lot of gatekeepers in crypto. So that was the first thing that really appealed to me, was like, why it was kind of a why not me moment, right? Like everybody else seems to be doing this thing, and there is no middlemen, and there was no, giant prerequisite of schooling or anything like that I needed. So for me, it was just looking at the opportunity and saying, like, look, obviously, like for me, it was the world's getting pushed in this direction. And once I actually did learn how to, get the crypto off my hardware wallet and start trading and stuff, I think a lot of people have the realization, like when you first start doing anything in the crypto space, that it is just better than legacy finance. So like as soon as that kind of realization hit me, it was like, then I was just 100% pedal to the metal. I was in it to win it after that.
Bro, so you mentioned that one of the things that really appealed to you with crypto was there's very little gatekeeping, unless you're Hex, of course. but so aside from the lack of gatekeeping, because Sam mentioned a lot of things that also, were the factors that I considered getting into crypto, right? The barrier of entry for crypto to me was so low, right? Like Sam mentioned, there's not really a necessity for you to have a college level education for you to dive into this course and be able to understand it, right? You just have to have the willingness to learn. What were the other things about crypto that really attracted you to this vehicle of investment as opposed to traditional ways, right? Because obviously when you said 2014, that's not too far off from the real estate boom that everybody experienced, right? A lot, like I'm sure a lot of us know here, that a lot of the multimillionaires and billionaires that we follow nowadays got their start after that financial crisis in the time course between 2008 and 2012. And the vehicle and the asset, the investment vehicle that they chose to make them a lot of that money was through real estate, but you chose crypto instead. So what were the other things that really attracted you to that investment class over everything else within the space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I'd probably say what led me there more than anything else. I'd probably say it was actually like, it was just the fact that it felt so personal. Like it really feels, you feel sovereign once you start making moves in crypto. Once you start using crypto, you just feel like you're your own man. And that was something that I liked, as opposed to like comparing it to something like real estate. That was something I liked a lot more about crypto, is that it was just, you tended to not have as many, sorry, fellas. You tended to not have as many people in your way. And you also could do it like more independently. So I felt like, I didn't need to, spend time making deals at banks to try to buy a piece of property. I just needed to, get gritty, make my DCAs when I wanted to, and just somewhat get in the market and wait it out. So for me, it was definitely like, it's so much faster and so much quicker. And for me, it was like, do I want to spend 100 hours learning real estate, which is, an amazing vehicle for making money and it's been around forever? Or do I want to spend that same 100 hours learning something new that I feel is an industry that's just about to explode and just about to keep growing? So I think that's probably what made me make that decision the most. Was just, I just saw a higher ceiling with crypto, just based on where it was, how long it had been around, that kind of thing. So,
you had said something really interesting that I think is super important. The value of paying for the lesson that you learned in 2017. Because along the lines of what Jay said a minute ago, a lot of people, they'll just fold up, throw in the towel. Hey, I'm done. Screw this. Chalk it up to a loss and never think about crypto again. That's one way that you can go about doing things. But you went the other way, which I think is awesome. I know that I went through that also because I got in the previous cycle. We affiliate with a bunch of guys that, they were born in the bear market. I was born, prior to the bear market. So I experienced the bull run in 2021. And, for the life of me, I wouldn't trade that pain that I learned watching the portfolio go down and go down and go down. I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. And that's exactly, how you worded it is exactly what it was. It was paying for a lesson. You know what I'm saying? It was paying for something that was extremely valuable because, you're either going to be one of two people in that situation. You're either going to throw in the towel or you're going to, bite down on the towel. You're going to, harness everything in you and you're just going to form diamond hands. And it sounds like that's pretty much exactly what you did. I was wondering if you could speak on how that transition from the top of the bear market or the top of the bull market in 2017 and then going all the way down to the depths of the bear market in 2018. How strong did that make your diamond hands, and how much easier did it make the next 4-year cycle and then the bear market that we just went through?
Yeah, no, well said and great question. No, I'd say it definitely made it made this cycle seem like a breeze. Like I don't want to sound too arrogant or too bad about that, but it really did. Like it hit me so hard in 2018 that it was like, at that point, nothing could scare me. It was kind of just that sort of thing. And as far as people, just picking up their socks and continuing on rather than just quitting, I think that has a lot to do with just personality traits in general. So if you're if you're a really positive person, I think positive people have a tendency to not quit and just want to, whether it ends up being where they want to be in the end, it doesn't really matter. It's more about the journey and just learning. And I find people who have an affinity for like self-betterment, self-help, that sort of thing, those people in my experience do the best in crypto because they never give up. And it's sort of like, it's sort of like that, like a growth that just keeps growing, it's hard to stop.
So now if you were to take that, I was going to say, if you were to take that exact same like summary right there, and you wanted to help influence the minds of the young people who this is their first bear market right now, like what we're going through with all these trials and tribulations and whatnot, these dips and things, what would you tell them, knowing what you know and having gone through this situation before? How would you take somebody who's on the fence trying to decide whether they're going to become a diamond hand crypto holder or if they're just going to walk away? How would you help influence people that you cared about make that decision to sort of kind of follow in your footsteps?
Honestly, what I'd tell them is just be yourself, because it's the easiest way to be successful in crypto in my experience, and is just to learn. And when I say be yourself, I mean like learn your tendencies, learn where you psychologically are susceptible to problems, and then learn how to navigate those problems. So a decent example would be like if you're a person who, let's say you love, no, I probably don't have a great example actually. Sorry, Will, but no, I'd say be yourself. Learn how you act psychologically when the pressure from the crowd is getting louder and louder, and then I'd say adjust accordingly. So like if you're a super regimented person, like Jay seems to be that way to me. I don't know you too well, Jay, but I'd say like you seem to be the type of person who's very analytical. You like to, I'm sure you have specific numbers and specific things you've written down where like, okay, at this number I'm out. And I think that's it. So anybody that's built like Jay, that's a wonderful strategy. Like if you're a very diligent person, you really like to pay attention to those things, it's great. If you're more peanut brain diamond hands, like Will and I think then it's better. Yeah. Like, and then at that point, it's better to just like, I don't know, it's better to lean into your strengths, right? So like, just be that guy, like just ignore all the FUD and just, peanut brain diamond hands. I love it, Will. So
find out what you're good at and focus on it and ignore everything else. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, and Jay, what, go ahead, finish.
And just try not to don't get me wrong. You got to learn from your idols and somewhat emulate your idols in the space, but don't be them. Unless you happen to be that type of personality and you're very similar to that person, if you know what I'm saying. So.
Is Kirby from Nintendo 64? Is that a thing? He the little pink dude that jumps around and absorbs people and becomes them for a little bit?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. All right. I might be thinking of a different game platform or something like that. But that's just the thing that popped into my mind. Jay, you had something there. Go ahead and finish your thought, bud.
No, because Sam was like, it seems like people who gravitate for crypto and stay in, even though it's even when they get rugged by the bear market, they seem to be like really optimistic people. And then I thought, well, Will is really cynical and pessimistic a lot of the times, but he's still here. So he's like, maybe he's the exception to the rule, because I'm the guy that Sam described, right? I'm a perpetual optimist. I always tell people, because I get comments from folks like this all the time. It's like, bro, do you ever have a bad day? I'm like, yo, my optimism, and so my scale is a sliding scale of happy, right? If something bad happens to me, I might be a little bit less happy than I was yesterday, but I'm still fucking happy. so that's how I describe other people. So I just thought that it was funny that Sam described it that way, because I'm like, man, Will over here is he's the cynic of the group, so it's like he's definitely not an optimist. But okay, here's what I wanted to kind of ask from you, Sam. So you said that when you and your family got into the cryptocurrency space, it was you and your brother, right? So how different is it? Do you and your brother have varying degrees of does your investment thesis differ? Do you consult with each other whenever you guys invest in something? Do you talk about the crypto space? Do you talk about different asset classes? Is there like a shared pool of money that you guys invest into? Like, how does that work? Since it seems like it's your whole family that's involved in the space.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it was a lot more separated when we first got started, but at this point we talk about it so much and we spend so much time together that yeah, at this point it's pretty much where we go one, we go all type of thing, you know? Just yeah. So we definitely like now we basically any coin that one of us, like if one of us gets interested in a new coin, basically we'll take a few days of work and just sort of go through the reasons as to why we think it's a good coin or a good project. And then we kind of let the other person back test it a bit. So do you have any issue with it? What do you see? What do you not see? And then kind of in the end, we come up with a decent game plan and then stick to it.
That is cool. Let's get a quick shout out to your brother. His name's Greg, right? Greg, the second half of Brothers64.
You're right. Thank you. Appreciate
Shout out to Greg, man. Good shit. Good shit. Josh, you look like you got something there.
Yeah. So what I want to know, so I think my favorite skit that you guys do is the one where you guys start out super serious and you're like, it's talking about girls and crypto. And then the punchline is, don't talk to girls about crypto. Who came up with that skit? And tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what was it you that came up with it? Was it Greg? And then how did you guys determine? Because that right there, bro, like I died laughing when I saw that. So tell me the origins of that. And then I want to sort of ask you a serious question, but that's the first question that I want to know.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching it. Thanks, Josh. No, that one was all Greg. We both kind of every week we come together with a pile of scripts and we go through them and then we kind of correct them, make sure they're decent. They make us laugh or something. And then we roll with it. So that one was actually, there was zero correction. There was zero stuff done. He came, showed me the script. I burst out laughing. We recorded it 2 minutes later. It was about it.
Yeah, dude. I think that was absolutely hilarious. And if you guys haven't, if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys get on Instagram. Make sure you guys are subbed to these guys. Make sure you guys are following these guys as well as on Twitter as well, because they definitely post some funny stuff on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following them there. But now I want to ask you a serious question. So one of the I think the biggest takeaway that I got, the biggest learning experience, the most value that I learned paying, so to speak, like I was talking about earlier, going from the top of the bull market to the bottom of the bear market, was identifying triggers, identifying certain thresholds and certain metrics when it looks like either a blow off or a Wyckoff distribution top is coming up. Whenever, we are in, all-time high territory and, hey, it looks like that this could transition from a bear market into a bull market. Or I'm sorry, from a bear market into a bull, from a bull market. Oh my gosh. From a bull market into a bear market. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Totally. Yeah. Just tongue tied 3 straight times in a row. Anyway. All right. So you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. From a bull market into a bear market. So the biggest thing that I learned was the RSI indicators, where RSI is going to be typically when we've reached all-time highs. Typically the RSI on the weekly for Bitcoin is going to be above that 70 to 80 range. It'll be above the 75 to 80 range. So that's like key indicators for me when I see that, A, we're in an all-time high territory, and then B, the RSI on the weekly index is north of that 75 to 80. What indicators have you learned, and what sort of strategies have you implemented to identify when to take profits in the bear markets? And then, what lessons, what successes have you had? And then, what failures have you had that, taught you pretty much a new strategy moving forward?
Well, as far as successes go, I'd say this is going to sound really crazy, but look for this, boys. It'll really help. It's like if you look for people in your personal life that don't like to talk about crypto, never mention crypto, wait for them to come out of the weeds and start talking about it. Those are like the best top signals in the world. Actually, like my dad's got a close friend who every time we're at the tippity top, he reaches out and he's, oh, how do I buy Bitcoin? You got to help me. I got to get some crypto. So like as trivial and unimportant as that may seem, it's actually unbelievably important. So like pay attention to the people around you that shouldn't be talking to you about crypto. Once they start talking to you about crypto, it's probably a decent metric to tell you that things are getting heated. And then as far as failures go, geez, like, you know, I probably one of my biggest mistakes was my biggest mistake ever. Well, I don't even like, it was a learning experience. It's not a mistake. I don't like wording it like that. But when Binance, like when BNB token came out, they had their ICO, like their initial coin offering. And I had a fat stack of profits at the time. And I wanted to buy it. I just used Binance. It was like a brand new website. You know, a lot of these things seem pretty valuable. I think a lot of guys will be using Binance. This seems pretty good. Anyway, so when the ICO came out, I had like a fat stack of cash and I was going to buy it, but I talked myself out of it. I talked to my brother and it was like, I was so unsure of myself and I was so unsure of my recognition and my skills in the space that I basically just wussed out. And instead of that, I just parked it back in Bitcoin. And it was, the last time I think at the tippy top of the 2017 market like that, my single buy was like, I don't know, I could have profited like, I think it was over $90 million like at the time when I saw that. So like I missed out on quite a big bag, boys. So it's like, and it's like Jay was talking about, just keeping positive, staying lit. It's like, it was pretty hard to do that after that blunder. But I think that it you know, in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it made me realize I was terrible at what I was doing and I didn't know where my money was going and I didn't know what I was doing with it. So that was like a big wake up call to like pay as much attention as I can. This is not a joke. You got to get serious, that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, as far as like, I think you learn as far as like trying to indicate when the market's hot or when the market is, or when you should be buying. I think that your mistakes are just as valuable as I think your mistakes are just as valuable as the things that you do really well and hit out of the park. So I think that, you really, I don't know. I would really pay attention to the people in your regular life that don't talk to crypto or don't talk to you about crypto. I think that's weirdly really important. And another thing is just, I'd also say don't expect the same thing to happen again. Like when it comes to this last cycle, I was absolutely convinced we were going to get a blow off top. I was stunned when we didn't get the blow off top. So, I mean, that was another really big learning experience for me where it's sometimes you gotta like, you know, sometimes pretty hot is hot enough. You know, you don't need to get that crazy blow off top, you know?
Yeah, and what was interesting about the 2021 top was we had all the indicators of a blow-off top in April or May of 2021. You know, we had the RSI on the weekly at the point to check it off, and we were in an all-time high territory. So we were definitely in that area, but then, you know, it seemed like there was still a little bit of runoff and still a little bit of hype, and that's what led from the summer drawdown into that fall, early December, late November, you know, run up to all-time highs. And then, but what's interesting is if you look at the RSI indicator, it was screaming with hidden bearish divergence. And I know I'm speaking a lot of technical analysis right now. And that's sort of what I want to pivot into. A follow-up question, so to speak, is over the last 9 years, have you become more like, have you decided to focus more on technical analysis? Have you decided to focus more on fundamental analysis or sentiment analysis? Or what aspect of cryptocurrency have you sort of taken a founding to or taken an interest in to sort of help your investment style and help your investment strategy?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the fundamental analysis. Like, honestly, like I try to do my best. I don't know. I try to do my best fundamental analysis, and then I leave a lot of the TA stuff. I'll leave to my brother just because he's better at it and he's been doing it longer than me, and he's a little bit more inclined with those sorts of things. So I think, yeah, but I think you should try your best to pay attention to all that you can without becoming crazy and sleep deprived and, obsessed. I think it's, you gotta be as in it as you possibly can be without driving yourself crazy.
So with your fundamental analysis and his technical analysis, and you guys sort of kind of play the same investment strategies as each other, I presume, or at least that's what it sounded like you were alluding to earlier. Do you guys have a like a sort of general rule of thumb, like where you pull out? I know one of the ththings that Charlie Miguel talk about is like when it's at a 5x, you pull out, your initial investment. When it's at like a 10x or something, you pull out like 30% of the portfolio. Do you have a set strategy that you follow for taking profits, or do you go in and you fucking rocket hand it until you meet a certain spot and then you pull everything? What's your ins and your outs? What does that kind of look like?
So that's a good question. I think the ins and the outs should look a lot more like you described with the DCC Charlie type strategy, where you should be, taking out your initial as soon as you hit however many X's, and you got to come up with all that stuff yourself, like specific numbers. But that's definitely the way to go. Like as far as the first market went, like my first bull run, I definitely did think I'd just hold it until the tippy top and then sell it, and great, I'd be made in the shade. But I also think I think that a lot of times if you try to time it perfect and you try to sell the tippy top, like so often you will the number that you have in your head, like whatever that number is, let's say like, oh, when I get to $1 million, I'm out of here, I'm going to sell it all and take my $1 million and leave. That number will grow as the market grows. And it's really, really hard to not let that number grow in your head. So I think, yeah, like no matter how big you think that number is, and once I hit that number, I'm retired and I don't need to look at anything ever again. It's like as you get better and as you learn more in the space, that number, your ultimate retirement number, or whatever you want to call it, just keeps growing and growing. So that's why I don't think it's the greatest strategy to try to take all your profits all at once, because like you'll inevitably get greedy. At least I will. It's my personal. I will inevitably get greedy at that point. You know. So
everyone needs to listen to what this man just said, because this affects every single person, and it makes total sense. As the market grows, your greed is going to grow as well. And what you just said there, I feel like that should be clipped and that should be posted across every single piece of social media that's out there. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? We're all human. We're all going to have those desires. We all have that greed. I mean, what are we in this space for? We're in this space to make money. So if you have already easily made $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, how much easier is it to just say, fuck it, bro. You know what? When I get to 15 mil, that's when I'll pull out. But it never gets to 15 mil because you've already, everybody's already sold on top of you pretty much. So yeah, dude, that is prime information right there. That's awesome. Real quick, I want to know, are you a Bitcoin maxi? What coins are you somewhat interested in? What are you looking at? And how is your sort of, if you are looking at multiple coins, what are you sort of interested in? What sectors are you guys interested in, and what goes into the decision making behind that?
So I'm definitely not a Bitcoin maxi. I like a lot of different tokens. I think Ethereum is going to do great this cycle. I hope anyhow. I'm pretty into the RH whole RH ecosystem. Like I like Hex, Pulse X, that sort of thing. But I say when it comes to Hex and Pulse, I kind of like what Richard's all about and what he stands for. I would say I have, in some ways, I love the idea so much of like the whole let's all be free speech, the blockchain's free speech. Like I'm really about that, and I think that. But that being said, I also I don't know. I don't put all my eggs in one basket. So in particular the Richard Hart basket, I think it's great, but I don't think it should be your only allocation. Not that it's not an excellent project, an excellent coin, but anything can happen. So I think you gotta spread yourself out a bit. You also don't want to spread yourself too thin. So I'd say I kind of only look at coins that I want to get interested in based on a use case. Like, and it's got to have a decent use case. So like right now, I'm definitely looking at the whole Thor swap rune thing, just because I feel like with all the MetaMask announcements and stuff too from earlier today, like I think it'll probably get used a lot more often here coming up. So that's in terms of a new coin, that's probably what I'm most interested in right now. But and Josh, I know you're a lot more like you're just ETH, Bitcoin, RH, or are you just ETH, RH?
So here's how I am. All right. I have I don't have very
About
much
to dox
time.
bags.
All right. I don't have very much time. So the time that I do have, I, center on pretty much what I know, because I'm very fiscally I don't know, intuitive, I guess you could say. It's always been a foundation of mine. It's something that my dad passed on to me. I can remember when I was 7 years old, every single time my dad ever made a transaction, he was recording it in a check register and stuff like that. So that's the sort of stuff that he passed on to me, and then when I turned 18, I went into the military, and I deployed over to Iraq, and I came back home with a ton of money, and I blew through probably $25,000 to $30,000 that I had banked. I was 19 years old. I had no responsibilities, and I blew through it in 3 months. And 3 months later, I was left with one of the biggest apartments in the area that I was living in. I had brand new furniture. I had all this stuff, and my credit was shot. So, I really had to start leaning on the financial principles at an early age. I started to understand the importance of credit. I remember there was a time where I didn't, I was approved for like maybe $100 to $150 on a Best Buy credit card, and that was the only credit card that I could get. You know what I'm saying? And I knew how important credit was, and I had that fiscal discipline that I saw from my dad, but I didn't apply it. So I learned at an early age and through life experience that, hey, you need to take care of this sort of thing. So ever since then, I have every single dollar that's in my bank account has an exact destination, and it has a purpose. So along with that, I'm not going to allocate money to something that I have no interest in, or that I know nothing about, or that I haven't had the time to really research. And so Ethereum is my foundation. I know it's similar to Jay, and I'm sure it's similar to a lot of the guys on the panel, and especially, if you follow Charlie and Miguel, they make it a strong recommendation that you have a solid foundation of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I have a solid foundation in Ethereum. And then, I've consolidated. I think in 2021, I had a 7 or 8 coin portfolio. But through the bear market, I've consolidated it down. It's just, if I only have a 3 or 4 coin portfolio, then that's only 3 or 4 coins that I need to pay attention to, that I need to track on Twitter. Because when I decide that I'm going to put a single dollar into a specific coin, that means I'm, that coin is getting every single bit of attention that I can give it. So that includes following Twitter. I'm in Telegrams. I have news alerts set, everything, so that I know. So if it is one of the few coins that I've selected, it's getting all of my attention. So that's sort of my strategy. So it's not so much that I'm like an Ethereum maxi or anything like that. My portfolio will probably grow over the next year or two as more projects start to come out, and as more coins start to prove themselves. Hey, look, I'm going to make it through this period. Once a coin pretty much says, all right, the bear market is pretty much through. But once it's even more solidified that, hey, this coin, it already went through the depths of a bear market, and it's starting to process all over again, where it starts to develop steam and stuff like that. At that time, I'll probably hop in. But to me, I'm more risk averse than probably most of the guys that are in this chat. So does that answer the question, I guess? So okay, perfect. So it pretty much answers the question. Jay, I would love for you to sort of give your opinion also, how your strategy differs from mine. And then Will, I'd love to hear what yours is also.
Well, I spoke about it probably a few months ago. It was probably on one of our first episodes. And I think this was specifically on our risk management episode, right? Let me turn that real quick. There we go. So in the beginning, I thought I was a lot more risk averse than I am now. But we were still in the depths of the bear market. When I started investing into the space, it was a little bit before the Luna debacle. And so I had a pretty sizable amount of capital in the market already, and I saw that, right? But obviously, if you guys know, after Luna, it was Celsius, it was Three Arrows Capital, it was BlockFi, and then the golden boy, right? Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX, the hero, the guy who drove a Honda Civic or wherever the hell he was driving and was donating all of his money to charity. And he was the guy who was not about taking profits. He was all about the tech, and he was all about making the world a better place. That kind of put a cap on all the nonsense that happened during the 2022 bear market, right? And so I was there for almost every single one of those things. And so throughout that time, I realized that I was not as risk averse, or I was not as risk tolerant as I thought I was. And so like Josh, instead of investing in all of these different assets, I consolidated my portfolio down into about 5 or 6. So a little bit higher than what Josh has, but my investment paradigm and thesis is pretty congruent with what Josh is doing, right? Every single dollar I make, I own and run 2 different businesses, and I do all of this solo. And so all of the income that I make from that business, it's like literally sweat equity, right? I'm out here in the fucking Arizona heat sweating my balls off, right? And so every single dollar that I earn, I know exactly what went into it. And so I am very careful about what I put that money into, right? I am probably one of the least wasteful people that you will ever meet in your life. I scrutinize all of my spending habits. And so I told myself, if you're going to invest in this space that has a high potential for gains, but also has a really good potential for rugging the floor from underneath where you stand, then you need to be very careful about what you put your money into, and you better be damn sure that you're paying attention to everything that goes on within the individual ecosystems of the assets that you invest into, right? Because yes, you can make more money, but you certainly can't get the time back that you use in order to acquire that capital to begin with, right? And so I'm also fairly conservative and risk averse when it comes to my investment thesis. And so I invest in Ethereum. I don't own in Bitcoin. I did speak to my friend Joe about it. Shout out to Joe if you're watching, because he's a Bitcoin max, and he's like, Jay, what we're gonna celebrate and go through a party when you buy your first Bitcoin. And I was like, Joe, you know what? I'll eventually buy my first Bitcoin, but right now everything that I have, or most of what I have, is in Ethereum and a very select few altcoins that I know that are going to do extremely well, or at the very least I have very strong conviction in, right? And then maybe a small percentage of the portfolio is an extremely highly speculative meme coins that are very low in the risk curve, right? But for the most part, I practice what I preach. I always tell the guys in our audience, hedge your portfolio with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's exactly what I do, because I know that this market can really hurt you. Can hurt your feelings, but that's me. So, Will, let's go ahead and hear your take on this, brother.
Oh boy. So I'm kind of a maxi, and I'm kind of a filthy degenerate. One thing that I am not anymore is a Bitcoin maximalist, because I did the Bitcoin maxi thing the last cycle, and I bought a lot of Bitcoin, and I didn't sell any of it. And then the top came, and then the top went, and then I was like, well, shit, I missed that gravy train. And then I saw the X's that other coins were doing, like Ethereum, and well, Ethereum was the one that stuck out to me, because I remember I had bought one Ethereum back in the day when it was worth just $1,000 or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I saw Bitcoin going up, and I didn't see Ethereum quite keeping pace with it at some point in the last cycle. And I was like, oh, this shit's trash. And so I sold my Ethereum for Bitcoin, and then just did that whole thing. I am no longer a Bitcoin maxi. I am now kind of like it's useful. It has its place. That's kind of where eventually I'm going to park my safe money, my retirement money. But as far as like investing and making gains go, I'm pretty much a Richard Hart maximalist as far as that goes. I've seen the things that he does. He's got thousands of hours of him talking on the internet, of him preaching what he's about, telling his life story, talking about the way that things work, and talking about the way that life works. For those of you who have not gone out and looked up Richard Hart, everybody that everyone that talks shit about him, they basically don't know anything about him. Like, they haven't watched enough of his content. And I've seen it, and I recognize a strong leader, a man who does things with conviction, with strong conviction. So I'm a Richard Hart maximalist. I buy all the fucking shit that Richard Hart comes out with. And then I take a lot of my extra money and then I throw that into shit coins, and I watch them go up and I watch them go down. And that's always fun. I've made about as much as I've lost getting into random shit coins, and that's mostly just for fun because I like to gamble. But when it comes to like the serious cryptocurrency stuff, it's pretty much all Richard Hart. And then, you know, I buy some Ethereum because it's utility, right? You need Ethereum to basically do any sort of trading with most other coins, or just interacting with any other blockchain. So I have Ethereum for utility, but I don't plan on making crazy gains with it. All my shit is in Richard Hart. So that's where I stand in the investment sphere. So yeah, man, that's that's what I do. That's my little spiel.
Getting back to Sam over here. I did want to transition a little bit away from crypto, although, you know, it's probably going to tie in, but because of the nature of the things that he does, right? He combines cryptocurrency with the video production and the comedy. Can you give the audience a bit of an insight? How did you get into that particular space, right? And is that something that you do like professionally? Do you guys are you guys like videographers to create short films, etc.? Like, give us a little bit of an insight into that aspect of your life.
Yeah, no problem. No, well, I for the better part, about 10 years ago, I started doing a lot of audio engineering work, and I originally, like years and years ago, I wanted to make records professionally, so I learned a lot about that skill. And then probably about 2-3 years ago, my brother got pretty into just videography and making videos. So the two kind of it was just kind of a stars aligned sort of moment where, like, we, for the last, I think it was for the last probably 6-7 years, we ran a food company up here in Canada as a family. And once we kind of closed the chapter on that and we sold the food company, it was like we'd been working together super closely anyways. And we kind of got to the point where it was like, well, what can we do now? Like, what's the next thing on the agenda? And I'll also say, like, over this, since we've been making these videos, which is probably about a year now, we've been working on some software in the back end. Whereas my brother's created some software that we've wanted to use over the last 8-9 years in crypto. I won't get too into that yet because it's still getting built and it's just about done, but I'll let you boys know as soon as it's done. But basically we wanted to build some credibility with an audience, and we just wanted to kind of have somebody to show the software to once it's done. So we figured the best way to make connections without burning bridges is to make people laugh. So that kind of just led us all into making these comedy crypto videos.
So hang on a second. Let me pull up my little question sheet here. So you guys are your goal is to build community. Would you say that's a fair assessment there?
Oh, absolutely. It's why I like you guys so much.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. That's awfully kind of you. We're trying to put something together here to bring the world together around a specific niche, and just, you know, talk to as many people and discuss the goings and the comings and goings. And so, like, we can relate to you guys a lot in that respect. What things does your eventual focus want to grow outside of things other than cryptocurrency and community? Like, are you guys focused on family values? Are you focused on faith stuff? Are you focused on personal betterment? What's some other things that you guys are looking to branch out into, or that you're already covering? in that realm?
Yeah, like eventually I just kind of like to yeah, no, as far as that goes, Will. Sorry, can you repeat the question just one more time? I want to make sure I answer it right.
Yeah, so basically you guys are building community, and then like it's heavily financially focused. But what are some other things that you guys want to like eventually cover other than finances and other than cryptocurrency, such as like personal betterment, community, or well, I already said community, personal betterment, religion, things of that nature?
Yeah, well, as far as what we'd like to, where we see it going after the whole financing is, I'd like to just keep. Really, I'd like to. I kind of think it's happening. Like, I don't know if you boys feel the same thing, but it just sort of seems with all these, everything that's happening with this new online world, it seems that there's collections of people aggregating or just coming together in different groups and becoming like, there seems to be little sects of society starting. I don't know if you guys notice the same thing, but I'd like to kind of be in a position where you do have like this wonderful community, this filled with wonderful families and wonderful people, to sort of just be sure that we can keep those values for the next few generations to come. So I'd like to, in a perfect world, I'd just like to have a great big family, living out on a farm, reproducing like rabbits. And on top of that, I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind having, just having a group of like-minded men around the world who have each other's backs and, who really want to build something great that no gatekeeper, as we were talking about earlier, can take away. So that would be the ultimate goal there. I hope that answered it. I may not have, but
yeah.
How much has the common goal of cryptocurrency, how much has that strengthened your own personal family relationship?
I can't even really describe it. I mean, we've always had a pretty close family, but the crypto thing has brought us unbelievably. It's really helped. It's helped our family grow. It's helped our family become stronger. I know it's maybe not the greatest way to word that, but it really has. It's really, I mean, crypto somewhat breeds independence, right? So like if you're breeding independence as a family, it's like an incubator. It makes it grow that much faster. It makes it, yeah. So I think I hope that answered it. But.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, because, look, we're all young, you know what I'm saying? We got Jay and we got Nate and we got a couple other guys that, they found a pretty solid woman that they're with, and they're sort of in that phase right now where they want to start family building and all that stuff. And I think it's really cool because you don't really see from that much influencers on YouTube or across crypto Twitter or anything like that. You don't really hear so much the narrative of growth, how crypto and how focusing, and it doesn't even have to be crypto, right? It can be any common goal that you and a spouse, a girlfriend, a brother, your family can focus on, and how that sort of focus can have lasting impacts in other areas of life and grow closer and just develop into that. Have you seen any other aspect of life in your own personal experience when it comes to the relationship with your brother and your relationship with your family in general? Has crypto been the biggest thing that's sort of drawn you guys closer together and had that sort of impact? And if not, what else in your life has sort of caused that closeness, or sort of been able to reap the rewards of the closeness, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I'd say crypto is probably the second biggest thing that's kind of brought in that closeness. I think the only other thing that can bring a family closer, provided the circumstances all right. I mean, there's a zillion not so great circumstances, but it's children. Like for me, it was, I mean, I had a daughter about 2 years ago, and that's made our family even closer than crypto. So I'd say crypto only takes a backseat to children. And honestly, like I'd say the other thing is, people underestimate this a lot, but like there is no altcoin in the world, no Pepe coin, no nothing crypto, no investment can have an ROI quite like a well-raised kid, right? Like if you take your time and you raise your kids right, like they're the greatest asset you could ever have. So I think that that's also something that gets overlooked a lot in this space, just because there's so many independent single guys in the space, right? Like I just think it kind of gets washed over a little bit. But that'd be my personal take on that.
You had mentioned sovereignty a couple times now at the very least, and my own personal thesis with the cryptocurrency is that it's bringing about this change to society, to the young people, to the dudes our age, the dudes a little bit older than us. How do you think cryptocurrency is changing the minds of the folks in the world in regards to things outside of just finances?
Yeah, well, I think actually, I hope I don't segue this too early or anything, but I think like just to flow off what you're talking about there, Will, like I think the whole trucker thing in Canada with like all the truckers and them freezing the bank accounts, like I think that is sort of what crypto, like that showed the power of crypto on a deeper level than just a quick investment to make some money. Like it showed you that like if your accounts do indeed get frozen, you can still transact provided you use this new technology properly, you know? So I think that, yeah, I hope that answered it, Will.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect segue. Man, the fact that you mentioned the truckers, this frickin' Trudeau guy, man. I'm right up next to Canada right now. I'm over in on the flip side of the country, over in New York, and just I'm watching all the Canadian dudes come down, cross the border over here at I don't know what the Canadian version of the street is, but here on Interstate 87, and they're all talking about like, you know, how the how the tobacco is super expensive over there, how a lot of the I guess the nice things in life or whatever are super duper crazy, financially speaking, over in Canada. Do you think that cryptocurrency, like I know down here in the States, we've got a fuck ton of Bitcoin ATMs popping up all over the place. There's a whole bunch of like just random, it's starting to creep into the normie culture. Are you seeing that a lot up there in over in the Saskatchewan area?
Absolutely. It's yeah, and actually definitely more after the whole trucker thing, which is wild. I mean, Justy boy up here is doing some crazy stuff, but I mean, I think it'll pass. It's the way I look at it. I mean, I think things will get better here, but probably not before they get worse first, if that makes sense. And I think that that's kind of true for a lot of places in the world. And I think that the US probably has the biggest cushion. So I think that you guys will probably get less worse, less quickly, and potentially bounce back quicker. But I think that's everywhere. Like, I think we're just going to see this huge boom, kind of like, I don't know, like I think it'll be very similar to the .com thing, where very soon it'll become so normal that like we're going to wonder how we ever managed to do it without it, you know? But
yeah, I totally agree there, because it seems like one of the best things about people or just us as a species is that we're extremely adaptive, right? We're problem solvers at the heart of us as a species. We're problem solvers, right? And what I've realized is, me personally, I haven't been alive that long. I'm only 33, right? And oh wait, hold up, am I 33 yet? Yes, I am 33 because it's 2023. So I did turn 33 this year. But over the time course that I have been alive, at least the time course where I've been able to pay attention to all the shit that has gone down around the world, it seems to me that when people are pushed close to or over the edge, they have a tendency to problem solve for themselves, and that's how we move on to the next phase of, I guess you could say, of human evolution, right? That happened when the internet got really popular, right? That kind of solved a lot of problems. And even though it did create some problems as well, the speed at which the technology evolves allows us to problem solve a lot quicker than problems are created. And it seems like that's what's happening with crypto too, right? Like you mentioned with the whole issue with the truckers up in Canada, when people realize that their own government has become so tyrannical that they're not even able to protest in a way that could allow their voices to be heard, right? So that whole freedom of speech and freedom of movement and assembly has been stripped away from them. Well, what does that solve? Cryptocurrency, right? I mean, or like what solves for that? Like cryptocurrency. I think that's why, despite the wording around Richard Hart's ecosystem, and people think that it's very silly, like, oh, he's sacrificing for freedom of speech. Oh, he's sacrificing for freedom of movement. I think he chose those words not just from a legal aspect, but also because they actually have there's a strong truth to why he says that crypto is for freedom of speech and for freedom of movement, right? Because by virtue of the ecosystem not being able to be controlled by any one person, then it's really difficult for you to silence somebody or to prevent anybody from moving if they're using cryptocurrency. And so I think that's precisely what Bitcoin and everything else in this space is going to solve for, right? And I think that's why, for the most part, I think that's why a lot of other countries outside of the United States are adopting it. It's because they see the potential in it, right? They kind of see the light of the end of the tunnel that this investment vehicle is going to allow them to obtain, right? And I think that's why you have such a great resistance in some avenues here in the US, because they know exactly that if this thing gets too big, they know that they're not going to be able to control it to the degree that they're able to control a large aspect of their constituents' lives. And so I think those are all really good points, Sam. And I think that's precisely the reason why a lot of people tend to gravitate into this space. And so one more thing that I wanted to find out from you. This is kind of like a selfish question, right? How because you're obviously an entrepreneur, right? You talk about selling a business. You and your brother obviously have your own thing going with the videography and the and you with the audio engineering, and then you have your own channel on YouTube space. What have you done in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, and what is some advice that you could potentially give our audience that are also looking to be entrepreneurs that could make them successful, right? Because I think you can empathize with me when I say that being an entrepreneur is not the glitz and glamour that people on Instagram or social media tend to portray it as. That it's a lot of hard work and a lot of sweat equity. So how have you been able to find success in that space, and what are some advice that you could give our audience if they also want to explore that avenue of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. No, I'd say as far as a piece of advice goes, I'd say try to don't hang on too long to something you love, because that tends to happen a lot, and it's happened to me in the past too, where like if you're an entrepreneur and you start something new and you just love it, it's really hard to let those things go. So I think just being okay with letting things go, but always continuing to work on, whether that's on something new or something pseudo related or whatever. It's just don't hang on too long, and try your best to pivot to something that makes sense as quick as you can, and try your best to understand if it's working or not as fast as you can. Those would probably be my couple of tips.
Hey, I want to follow up real quick with a quick question. How important is it to surround yourself with the right people around you, whether it be a wife, whether it be, or even if you don't believe in marriage, maybe if, a solid ride or die, or, whether a good business partner, or, somebody that you trust. How important and how much impact do those relationships have on building a successful business?
Well, I think that I don't think you can overstate enough how important those relationships are for like the success of your life. As far as your success in business, for me, garnering really close relationships with people you can trust has been super. I've needed it to succeed, but but I have seen people do it without that. So as much as I think it's massively important, especially just for like your personal life, right? Like finding the right woman is, hey, that's a huge choice. It's something that you got to make sure you choose right. But as far as business goes, I have seen other entrepreneurs become very successful working with people that they can't stand. So I think that provided the work relationship functions properly, sometimes it's okay if you're not absolutely in love with that person or in love with what they do. But you do have to make sure that that both visions of both partners or multiple partners or whatever, you got to make sure that the vision remains solid and one clear vision. But what about you guys? You guys feel the same way, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it first. I think as a man, there are certainly a lot of things that we can do on our own. And there are a lot of things that we can accomplish by ourselves. But at the same aspect, I think it's extremely important to have in order to have a completely fulfilled life, I think children need to be involved. I can tell you right now that the man that I was before I had my daughter is completely different than the man that I am right now. It's just something about it, man. And to be honest with you, I don't even, I don't have a son, so I don't know what the relationship between a father and son is. I know that I wanted a boy so bad. The moment that my daughter's mother told me that she was pregnant, I knew I was having a daughter. It was just one of those things. Whether it be God's humor or whatever it is, because, I played football in high school. You know what I'm saying? I did the military route. I wanted to be there to coach his son up. He was going to be my best friend, and I wanted to be his role model. And I wanted a boy so bad that the moment that I found out I was about to be a dad, I knew it was going to be a girl. And you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely love my little girl. She has taught me things that I couldn't even fathom. She's 7 now. 7 years ago, I had no idea the things that I know now. And, it's absolutely incredible. And Sam, I know that you can attest to this. I know that, I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't be half the man you were today without being a dad, and I think it's super important to be able to experience that in life, if nothing else. You can drive around the fanciest cars in the world. You can have penthouses. You can have all the status in the world. You could be a business owner of 1,000 different employees. But to be able to hear somebody call you daddy, and to be able to tuck somebody in, and to be able to, when a thunderstorm is going on, be able to console and to just, hey, look, everything is going to be okay. And to be able to give that sort of leadership and instruction to a child that you literally held in the shower when they were a week old, a month old, and then to see them literally grow to a point where, they're almost too big to hold now. My daughter's only 7 years old, but she's over 50 pounds. She's over 4 feet tall now. And I remember when she was just this little thing that I can hold in my arms, and I think that's extremely important for guys to be able to experience that in life. And, if, there are guys that are like, oh, I don't need a woman for shit. And you know what? You don't need a woman for a lot of things in life, but you need a woman to be a dad. And I would recommend every single man out there, you might not be there in life yet, and I completely understand. Everybody's got to get there on their own accord. Everybody's got to get there at their own timing. But every single guy in here will get to a point where they want to be able to provide that leadership and carry on their legacy. And if you're at that point, you really need to start making sure and paying attention that you're finding the right woman and all that stuff. If you're not there yet, hey, it's cool, but understand that you're going to get there one day. It's going to happen. You're going to get there one day. That's my take on it. Jay, what do you think, buddy?
Well, I think it's not a surprise to people that listen to us to know that I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson and fellow Canadian there. I forgot he's he's also from Canada, but he says that people don't really grow up until they have children, and I didn't really understand what he meant at the time. until I studied a lot more of his work and how big he was into personal responsibility. And then I realized that it really is true that it's very hard for you to grow up until you are responsible 100%, until you are 100% responsible for somebody other than yourself, right? Because even when you get into a relationship, or you take a bigger responsibility in marriage, right? And it certainly is a much bigger responsibility than just having a casual relationship. But even then, you are, for the most part, the both of you are going to be adults, and you're going to retain some sort of independence, even though you are together in that relationship, right? In that marriage, in that union. But once you have a child, and that kid is reliant on you 100%, they look to you for leadership, they look to you for guidance, they look to you to basically help keep them alive until they hit 18 years old and they can go out there and become independent on themselves. You are 100% completely responsible for that person. And so it is really at that point where I agree with Dr. Peterson that you grow up once you have a child. And so yeah, I'm all for family. Or, like, to be quite honest with you, I know some people are not going to want that route. There are folks in my life that I know very well that are personal close friends of mine that are extremely responsible, extremely successful, and for them, children was not the way. They found that responsibility and in some other avenue of their life. But I think, for most folks, I think they're going to find that meaning in starting a family. And so yeah, I completely 100% agree with you guys. Yeah,
I got it.
Oh, and look, before we get any further here, I just do want to say I do have to head out. I have a dinner appointment with the wife. So I just wanted to thank Sam for coming on here and giving us a little bit of his time. It was a pleasure speaking with you, brother. And I'm sure this is not the last time that we're going to do this. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Sam and to thank everybody who came on to the show and joined us for a little bit, because I do have to head out. So I'll go ahead and see you guys later. Okay.
We'll see you, Jay.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks, Jay.
Man,
appreciate it.
Man, I gotta say, this talk about children and fathering and all that stuff, kind of like it hits a note. I'm not personally a father that I know of, anyways. I don't think so, anyways. But you guys talk about it is important for men to have sons. It's important for men to have daughters. Only about, I can't remember where I heard this study, but there was a university somewhere that did a whole bunch of like genetic testing and tracing of DNA, and it turns out that of all the people like that ever existed, like in the history of humanity, when you break it down by gender, about 80% of women have children and about 40% of men have children. So if you're a father, if you're a dad, you are anomalous, like historically speaking, genetically speaking. If you're a man who is privileged enough to call himself a father, then like you've made it. You've passed your genes along, and like a little part of you will live on in perpetuity. So that's something that I think is super duper beautiful and super important for men to strive for in life, is try and find a good woman who will be a good mother to your children, and try and become a man that is worthy of having children. Like, anybody can be, well, maybe not anybody, but many people can be leaders, many people can be mentors, but very few men have the privilege of calling themselves fathers. So every dad out there in the chat, every future dad, every past dad, every present dad, shout out to you guys, man, because that is a privilege, and that's not something that everyone's going to get. A lot of men die, or a lot of men live without producing children, and if you find yourself in that little 40%, just count your blessings and realize how special that is. So that's what I have to say about parenting and genetic legacy and everything.
Hey, Sam, did you say you had a boy or a girl? I can't remember. What do you have, a boy or a girl?
I got a little girl too.
Yeah, for sure. So you know exactly how awesome it is to have a little girl. And what's interesting is the different dynamics that you you know, as a dad, whether you have a boy or a girl, kind of depend, you know, whether you have a boy or a girl, it's sort of going to dictate, I guess, what you're, you know, the sort of role model that you want to be. Yeah, like Nate has a son. So, you know, Nate's job is going to be a role model to his son. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be to show him exactly how a man lives in life. It's going to be exactly how a man conducts himself. And he's going to be able to have conversations with his son that are pretty difficult for us as dads of little girls. You know what I'm saying? But in the same accord, you know, it's our job as dads to teach our little girls exactly what to look for in a man. You know, to say, hey, this is what a man is supposed to do. This is how a man handles business. And this is the type of man that you need to seek in life. Because if you want to be happy in life, you know, then you need to seek a man that's going to provide the same admiration that you have for me. You know, and it's just, you know, it's interesting that, you know, and to the dads out there that are both a dad to a son and a daughter, I feel like that is probably the ultimate challenge. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely the ultimate challenge. I've kind of become set, and look, you know, I'd still love to have more children. You know what I'm saying? If it's in the cards, that's awesome. If I only have my little girl, then that's just how it, you know, that's just how it is. But I apply your strategy very much in life. I would like to reproduce and have, you know, carry on my legacy and stuff like that. Luckily, I have a couple nephews because my little brother, he has, you know, 4 sons. So being able to be that uncle that sort of, you know, can do that sort of thing for my nephews is pretty cool as well. But it's nothing like a dad can do. So yeah, I mean, so Sam, what are some things that you foresee down the road? And I kind of want to keep this in the realm of, you know, the topic of the channel, which is of course cryptocurrency, things that are directly or indirectly, you know, affiliated with cryptocurrency. What are some things that you want to teach your little girl financially? It doesn't have to be specifically about cryptocurrency, but when you think of investing and you think about wealth building, wealth preservation, what are some things that you want to teach your little girl about that and how to be successful in those avenues?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just think about it for a second. You know, I'd probably say the number one thing that I'd like to teachers to just be diligent in your accounting. That's something that I wish I was so much better at growing up, right? Like I wasn't a guy that tracked receipts for many years growing up. I kind of lived a pretty degenerate wild life when I was a young teenager. And I think if there's one thing I could teach her that would be different, would be I'd like to show her that I'd like to show her that responsibility can still be cool, if that makes sense.
I think I'm gonna pivot off, or not pivot. I'm gonna build off of that a little bit. I think that there's more things than just money that you need to teach children when it comes to retention of wealth and, I guess, more broadly, value, right? So like there's other things in life than money that are valuable that like we need to focus on growing and keeping strong, like our time. We don't get, nobody alive gets more than about 30,000 days of life. You know, like your time is valuable. You have to protect your time. You have to protect your money. You have to protect like all of the different resources, all of the different things that are valuable. So like not just, and perhaps you guys agree, perhaps you disagree, but I would say that it's important to teach the young ones, the children, whether they're ours or anyone's, or just the coming like future of the planet, right? You have to teach them that there's a lot of things in life that hold value, more than just money. You know, time is the one that jumps out to me the most. Like you have to protect your time. You have to protect who you spend your time with. You have to protect what you do with your time. Are you maximizing it? Are you wasting it? Are you investing it? Or are you like burning through it? Some things of that nature. Josh, what do you think about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's super important because I think if everybody started thinking about the value that they bring and the value of dollars, I think that people would get a lot, more, a lot farther in life. And specifically, what I mean by that is, your number one resource, the one thing that you can never get back in this world is time, of course. So if you have a goal, if you're one of those people that you don't have a nest egg, then you need to take a look at your time and devise a way to become as profitable as possible. If you're one of those people that have already accomplished that in life, if you have already made your bag, so to speak, then your focus needs to shift to prosperity, to legacy, to what is most important in your life, and what resources you can allocate to make that better. It's extremely important, and I think everybody is at a different place in life. But if they can sort of start understanding everything through the lens of dollars, that your time is money, your efforts is money, and when I say money, it's just an instrument, a proof of value, so to speak. You can spend every single day with a woman and not make any physical money, but the value that she brings into your life because of the time you have decided to spend with her is invaluable. So if everybody sort of started looking at it in that way, I think we would have a lot more success when it comes to relationships. And I think we would have a lot more success when it comes to financial independence. Financial independence is different for everyone because everybody has a different, some people have a shitload of credit card debt, and, they've gone through experiences in life and they've made mistakes in life, or some people might be, hundreds of thousands of dollars bogged down in financial bills, or, whatever. So, financial independence, though, is the goal to strive for. And, once you can achieve that financial independence, then everyone can pretty much, do what they wish to do, perceive, or to go forward with any mission that they choose to accomplish, and whatever desire that they have. But the most important thing is to certainly understand that a dollar is nothing more than proof of value. And if you think of everything in your life as dollars, the time that you spend with somebody, the amount of effort that you put into something, this, that, and the other, then I think that there would be a lot more successful folks out there. Sam, what do you think?
Gosh, I thought that was right on the money. I couldn't agree more. No, really, I think I think too, like I think that whole idea is becoming more and more popular with this generation. And I think crypto has something to do with it. I'm not entirely sure, but there seems to be an obvious link there. But I think I really think that there's like the previous generation, I guess the boomer generation, like that wasn't as popular an idea as it is now. What you just laid out there, Josh.
Well, I think that the biggest problem is that mindsets don't change as fast as the culture and everything else happens in this world. So, like the boomer generation, they were in the world of pensions, and you spend 30 years, 40 years working for a company, and they lived in a time where if they became adults at the right time. Well, I don't know. Let me back up. So after World War II, we lived in a period in the 60s and the 70s, well, 50s, 60s, and 70s, where, a man could go to work, a woman could stay home, and, a family could live off of a single income. You know what I'm saying? We're not in that world anymore. We're not in that unless the man is extremely, the man or the woman, depending on however you live your lifestyle, or whatever the dynamics are in the relationship. We don't live in that anymore. Wages have not caught up with the inflation and the price of things. And we live more so in a world now where the family has to choose between two parents working and then pay for daycare, or, one parent working and then, the other parent stays home with the kids. I'm, the sort of lifestyle that works for me is, I go out, I earn the money, and, the woman that I decide to spend my time with, I would like her focusing on domestic stuff, so to speak. But that's just how I operate my life. That's what works for me. It might not work for everybody else, but it's really tough. And I think there's a generational thing to it as well. I think that the boomers ushered in a period of
prosperity.
Prosperity, but it wasn't really the boomers. It was the greatest generation, the World War II generation. Because World War II was really the last time that America was truly challenged. You know what I'm saying? If you think, post World War II, America establishes itself as a superpower. We get Bretton Woods, where the U.S. dollar becomes the U.S. world reserve, and then U.S. is in the driver's seat for a period of time. You know what I'm saying? And the U.S. is still in the driver's seat, so to speak. Not as strong as we were initially, but enough time has passed. So we're still in the driver's seat, but there's obviously a lot of turmoil going on in the world. But then you have various wars. You got the Korean War, you got the Vietnam War. And then you have stuff going on in Kosovo, Panama, and stuff like that. And then you have Desert Storm, and then you have the global war on terror. When really the last time that America was truly challenged, was truly under threat, was in a period of time in the 1940s, 30s, and the 40s, when America was fighting Japan and Germany. So there has been a period of 70 to 80 years where America has been very comfortable. And I think through that comfort has come a sense of I think it's in our biology and it's in our history as humans to always have conflict. And when you live in a period of peace for as long as we have, with no real challenges and no real threats, that it's easy to sort of create those sort of things. And I feel like those things have been created over the last 70 to 80 years. We can talk geopolitical and stuff like that. But financially speaking, there have been a lot of social things that have occurred, and, social programs and various legislation and various policies that have pretty much become precedent that, just it's really driven home a revert period, a time to revert back to another period where the patriarchy, so to speak, is more looked upon as favorable, and you see more conservative values out there in the world. But that's just, that's my opinion. I'm curious to know what you guys think.
Well, there's that age-old saying that hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and the cycle repeats itself. There's a name for it, but it's a roughly 80 to 100 year cycle that is pretty consistent throughout human history. And you had mentioned that, like, being at war causes a society to advance at a faster pace than other societies. I think this is my personal thesis here. I'm not very greatly studied in history, but I think that's part of why Western culture beat out other cultures that didn't advance as much. Is like, essentially Europe throughout history was just a whole bunch of tribes fighting each other, and because they were all fighting each other, they all had to adapt and create better things constantly, and that created what has now grown into the Western culture, which went out and basically conquered the world, right? And so you have all these warfaring tribes in Europe, all these fighting countries, whether it was the Gauls against the Romans, or the Franks against the Spaniards and the British, or whatever, like in the West, there's been a constant state of war, and that forces out like, I guess, the weak hands or the weak people, right? And this creates this society that we now find ourselves in, and we're kind of like in the current times, like you were saying, the last great challenge of America was the 1940s with World War II. And ever since then, it's been like, all right, we've just been coasting on the successes of this phenomenally crazy generation, the greatest generation, right? They created all these great things. And so America as a country, like the middle class was able to generate enough value as like I would say that the past X, Y, and Z number of years ever since the World War II has been like the age of the middle class. And right now we are like, the middle class is diminishing. You can no longer have a single parent household that goes out and works and provides for a whole family, unless you're just like a top tier percentile dude or woman or whoever the breadwinner is, right? Like there, you can't get away with being average anymore, because the age of average is over. You have to be exceptional, or you have to find things that are extremely risky that have a ton of profit in them. Like the advice that all the boomers give, the advice that all our parents and grandparents give, it all worked for them in the stage of life that they were in, but we're no longer in that now. We're in the age of you have to go out and do some shit. You have to go out and become an exceptional man. You have to be an exceptional woman, or whatever the case may be, in order to have any sort of impact in life. And so I'm wondering, at what part of this historical cycle that's passed over and over again are we going to see in our lifetimes a great flippening, or a great apex, or a great like crazy challenge or something? Or are we going to usher ourselves into an era where it's basically just like, mindless robot zombie world, or whatever the hell that we're going to live in? Like Jay spoke earlier about me being a nihilist and a cynic, and he's partially right. I am pretty nihilistic and I am pretty cynical, but like I try and find the humor in all of these things, because I don't know what my specific to me, what level I can affect the world, what level I can affect the history, because I see that as it stands right now, I grew up middle class and everything, and I'm relatively low on the totem pole as far as like my ability to affect the future. So I use crypto, and I try and use this wealth building strategy, the self betterment, as a way to put myself up the ladder, so that way I can better the world around me, better the world of those that are also around me, and try and build that community of people that are making the world a better place, so that we don't get sucked down onto the bottom half of this ladder during these trying times that are coming up.
Yeah, and I also think look, Tim Pool said it best. Tim Pool, what he's popular with saying, what he says a lot is give it 20 or 30 years, because what do most people typically do? They're raised in a certain way in a certain household, and they typically follow their parents, whether it be, they have conservative parents, they typically trend towards the conservative side as they get older. And if they have liberal parents, they'll tend to trend towards the liberal side. And if you look at what's going on today in the world, conservative parents, conservative households, they're multiplying, they're having more kids. Liberal parents, well, I'm not necessarily going to say liberal parents, but the liberal mindset nowadays is, not have kids. If you're woke, then, there's a whole transgender thing where, and pretty much what Tim Pool says is through process of elimination, give it 20 or 30 years, and there's going to be more of that conservative side of things. And I think we're already starting to see that, because the latest polls of high school seniors coming out are trending more conservative than liberal. And that's a complete switch over the last 20 to 30 years. So there is definitely a pendulum swing going on in the world right now. And if you take a look at where the country was, let's just go back to 9/11. Okay, we had 9/11 here recently, right? We had the Bush administration for 8 years, and then we had the Obama administration for 8 years. And then we get into Trump and Biden, right? Of course, 2024 hasn't come here yet. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if Biden's going to run, and if he runs, we don't know if he's going to win. We don't know that yet. But the pendulum seems to be swinging a lot quicker. Things seem to be picking up a lot faster. And I think we've gone through a period of time of, where moderates, conservatives, and liberals used to be able to disagree with each other, but they still respected each other, right? And we're in a period of time now where the left starts getting farther and farther left, that a regular moderate leftist, a moderate liberal that is traditionally a Democrat, somebody like a Robert F. Kennedy Jr., can now say things and he's considered far right? So I don't know. I think that has to deal a lot with culture. You know what I'm saying? And we can talk about culture on this channel, but it's obviously not our specialty. But I think what we're going to see is a lot more as people develop into voting age over the course of the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I think you're going to see a lot more conservative households, and I think you're going to see a lot more conservative voters, just given that conservatives like to populate, and leftists and liberals, they don't seem to be as motivated to repopulate the ranks as conservatives do. So but yeah, Sam, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on this if you had any thoughts on it.
Oh, this probably sound bad, but like I agree that it seems like the pendulum's swinging for sure. It's definitely switching over. But what I'll say is, like, as far as, yeah, I actually, this is a little bit of a divergence, but I try to pay as little attention as possible to politics. It sounds bad, but like I've really made it, like, we've had a lot of funny business going on up here with Justy Boy. Eh? Like, it's been pretty crazy these last few. So like I kind of made a point where, like, 2-3 years ago, I just that's it. I'm unplugging. I'm tuning it all out. I'm not watching any news. I'm not looking at anything. And like, it got to the point where, like, even with all the COVID stuff there, the COVID-19 stuff, all that stuff, what I was gonna is like, man, I didn't even know it was happening until, like, I just went to the store one day and they were like, "Oh, you can't come in here, man. Like, something you got to put like, I had no idea." So, I mean, I think that's like, I just try to stay as away from it as possible, because I feel like it leads me into these spirals of, like, second guessing my decisions and myself, and it makes me feel like I have to change other people, and I feel like I can never do that. So the only thing I can change is me. So I may as well not even just change me for the better and just call it there. Like, it sounds bad, but I don't really know too much right now about the political landscape, particularly in the US, right? Like, I mean, I pay a little attention to Canadian news, but I mean, most of our news comes from you guys anyhow now. Like, I'd actually say, but like, on the whole, it's at least just as popular with the average person here in Canada as, like, US politics is probably just as important, if not a little more important, to be honest with you. Maybe that's just my perception or what I've heard, but that's what I think.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what I heard, Will, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime we refer to Canada now on this show, I think we need to refer to Mr. Trudeau as Justy Boy. That's
Justy Boy.
Sort of Justy Boy. That's sort of the vibe that I'm getting over here. So whatever Justy Boy's got going on up there in Canada, that's what we'll refer to him now as. So that's pretty awesome.
I like that.
So you think? What are you thinking, Will? Are you thinking this would be a good segue into starting the closeout period?
Well, yeah, I think that we are getting close to that 2-hour mark. But before we go, I do want to ask Sam one last thing, and that's, so all this stuff that we've just talked about, is this something that you consider when you, like, in respect to your daughter, in respect to your children, like, the world is a changing landscape and whatnot? Do you think about it, like, is there a plan of action for helping train the young ones for, like, how to best expect these sort of changes as they're coming? Or are you, like, what is your thoughts on preparing the younger generation for the world that we live in, not just right now, but the world as it's going to be, as far as we can theoretically predict it to shape out?
That's an amazing question. Geez. Yeah, no, I'd say the very first thing that comes to mind is, this is just me, take it with a grain of salt, but, like, I don't think you should send your kids to school. I'm going to try my best to try not to send my girl to school. hopefully it all works out. But I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there, a lot of variables, not the easiest thing in the world. So hopefully I can make that all kind of work out. But that'd be my first suggestion would be to try to school your kids yourself as much as possible. And try to lead by example. I think that's the only thing you really can do. So I think that trying to limit the amount of, and I mean, you can only do it so much, but try to limit the amount of outside influence on your children as much as you can. When I say, I don't mean all outside influences, positive influences are great, but I definitely think that you should try your best to do as much yourself as you possibly can with your kid, because there's no one in the world closer to you than your flesh and blood, you know? So I think that would be my best little tidbit, would be try to teach them as much as you can yourself and try to keep them away from a lot of the crazy indoctrination, wild stuff that we got going on right now in the whole landscape, you know? But
that is some top tier advice. And I think that's a good place for us to end the stream tonight. Mr. Josh, why don't you go ahead and get us rolling, man? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm starting to catch myself, right? Just one quick follow-up. So an idea that I see become more and more popular, especially here in the United States, is a high school diploma and a GED are sort of looked at as the same level. Do you think as we get more and more down the path, do you think it would become more and more advantageous to maybe, if you have a child, maybe have them, once they turn 16 years old, maybe pursue a GED and then bring them on as an apprentice in your own business to sort of give them a 2-year advantage? So boom, they're 16 years old. They start coming to you, working with you full time. They start learning the process. They get 2 full years in. While they're doing that, they're accomplishing their, GED, as opposed to a high school diploma. I see a lot more people doing that. Do you think that would be an advantageous route in the future? Or do you think, maybe it's, no, you can't really substitute that high school diploma. Let's let them get to 18 and then you can sort of plug them into the system. What do you think on that?
For me, I think it's a great idea. I think 16 is wonderful. Get them a GD, get them working. I don't know what you, but I think it depends kind of how you learn. Like, I think some people learn really well in a classroom environment and in a school or high school or whatever kind of environment. I was definitely not one of those people. I don't know about you boys, but for me, I learned a heck of a lot more getting onto the job. So I think the sooner that you get onto jobs and that sort of thing, the better. That's just my 2 cents. You know?
Yeah, hey, Will.
Agree.
I was Will. I wanted to come to you. I wanted to hear what you said too.
I was going to say, I absolutely agree with Sam and Josh. I think you're being a little bit too tame there with that 16 number. I say get them fucking started working as soon as 4 years old. Send them down into the coal mines and teach them a fucking thing or two about life. There ain't no. I mean, I'm being a little bit bombastic there, but like, start them off as early as possible. If you can bring your kid to work with you when you're 5 and have him do like little tasks or something, like introduce them to the adult world as soon as possible. Like, looking back historically, children didn't have like a youth, like a playtime. It was like, okay, oh, you're born. All right. You're old enough to carry sticks. All right. You're carrying sticks for the fire. All right. You're going out into the farm and you're helping like chop fucking corn stalks down, or, you're going out with dad, like on an Indian fucking hunting raid or some shit like that. Right. Get them started as soon as possible. That's my 2 cents.
Cool deal. I like it. All right. Let's go ahead and start the wrap up portion. Sam, let everybody know where they can find you. If they're interested in following your content, where they can go. Of course, we've had the banner scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So, but how often are you guys posting content? And as you start getting 6 months, a year out from now, do you guys have any plans, any goals, or anything like that? That maybe the folks that, if they start following you now, that they could look forward to, or something like that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you can find us over at brothers64.com, and it'll give you links to all of the social media stuff. And so we right now we're only able to release about 1 video a week, but we try to make sure that we release it every week. So in the future, we'd like to have a heck of a lot more videos. And we're also, in the not so distant future, I'm going to start doing a little bit more serious, not comedy style videos, more like just all about the software that we're building, which I can't wait to share with you guys at a later date. But right now, that's all just still in the works. So the plan is we're going to, make as many videos as possible coming down the pipe. We'd like to just build a community and try to get as many people involved as possible. And we'd also like to, I got something in my notes. The other thing I wanted to say is like, we just would like to make we'd like to bring more people on board to try to make an effort to make crypto a little bit cooler and a little bit more accessible for normal people who aren't into it yet. So I think that's like a big sort of gap that needs to be bridged in the next little while. I think, people just need to kind of come together in these types of communities and build good guys doing good shit. That's what it comes down to for me. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, thanks so much for having me on, boys. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I know what I'm looking forward to. Look, we're growing too, and you guys are growing. So, let's grow together. Look forward to future conversations with you. Looking forward to seeing the content that you have. If you guys aren't following them on Instagram and on Twitter, make sure you guys are following them. Hop in there right now. Hop on Twitter, hop on Instagram. Make sure you type in BROTHERS64, BROTHERS64 Media. Follow all their content to make sure you guys are up to date with their stuff, because it is really good. And I am like I said, man, you guys are growing, we're growing. Let's forge a solid brotherhood here. Let's form a good co-op or whatever, whether it's support, whatever. Let's bounce ideas off of each other, and let's keep that chain of communication going. And we can definitely do some cool stuff. So I like that. Will, what you got coming up, and where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me at t.me, capital Will, capital Stevenson, all one word, or you can find me on Twitter at all my socials are linked in the description below for those of you who want to follow me as I traverse about the United States. My next stop is going to be over in Western New York. I'm going to be over nearby the Jamestown area. So if anyone's over there and you want to hit me up and do a real live interview, IRL or some shit like that, or just hang out, fucking hit me up on Telegram. That's probably the best one. Other than that, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if you really need to. But that's what I got going on. Mr. Josh, what about you, buddy?
I'll tell you here in a second. Hey, Sam, make sure don't log off right away. Just hang out behind the scenes once we hop off stream. So just hang out for a second. All right. Yep. I'm Josh. You guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Chocolate Taints. We got, we constantly got stuff in the works for you guys. We got the Sunday show, 8:00. Next Wednesday, we had a special guest, but we had to reschedule. So we're trying to think about, I'm in the process right now of talking with Dace. Maybe doing a community-only sort of event, maybe an invite-only link for a stream, maybe a Q&A or something like that, but something focused on the community. In the works, we got Crypto Sloth, we got Corey Costa, and I'm in the process of trying to get a couple other folks booked in October. But for the next foreseeable future, we have some pretty solid special guests that'll be coming on Wednesday, as well as our regular 8:00 show on Sunday nights. And then whatever DGen or DR Insights is sprinkled in here and there. But if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Check in the description. You guys will find our Instagram. You'll find our Twitter. You'll find our Facebook. What you're also going to find in there is our Telegram group. There's a ton of awesome information in there. It's free to join. The conversation's getting better and better every single day, and we're growing every single day. So make sure, if you guys haven't done so already, you guys are joining our Instagram. So with that being said, that's what we got coming around the corner. We're really excited. Make sure that you guys join us. Our next show, as planned right now, is going to be Sunday night at 8:00. So for all those that are watching live, we thank you so much for spending the evening with us. Sam, it was great getting to know you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on. Will, you did a phenomenal job hosting, buddy. This was awesome. You had some great content and all that stuff. So thank you guys both so much for your time. You guys make the content what it is, and it's phenomenal. So, but yep, for everyone watching, thank you so much. If you guys are catching us on the replay, make sure you come back Sunday at 8:00 p.m. That's when we're going to have the next episode of DGen Roundtable. And with that being said, we hope everybody has a good night, and we out.
Yeah.